They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense.
King Harold. King's Roulette, King's Club, looking into those Ray-Ban Meta glasses right now to see can I find some glasses that will record me at the analog wheel. We're going to see if we can find something that will support it, that I can actually just pretend I'm talking to myself, and it'll record my voice too. So we're going to see. I know we're aiming really high. We're hoping for great things and probably going to get something a little less than that, but we're going to keep pushing that way. So we're going to follow up the Dell and Bear, where we bounced back and forth between the columns and the dozens, and we're going to modify it or magnify it a little bit rather than, we're going to magnify it. We're going to go columns to dozens to columns to dozens to columns to dozens. We're going to use Fibonacci. We're going to use a $2 entry bet with Fibonacci playing on column number 1. We're going to go from column number 1 to dozen number 1, to column number 2 to dozen number 2, column number 3 to dozen number 3, completely random. But it's still those same 38 numbers that are out there. We're going to begin Fibonacci at $2. And we're going to do a King's modification on Fibonacci. We're not going to stay at the 2. We're going to go 2, 4, 6. And just move right on up. And so we will kick it off with a $2 bet. We don't have any prompter here. We've got a $2 bet on column number 1, and we spin Fibonacci. Here we go. And we have a win, but that doesn't matter to us. We're going to go straight with the $2 bet on dozen number 1. I have Angel here in case I make a misstep. He'll be more than happy to correct me. We have a $4 bet on column number 2. Modified Fibonacci, King's modification. Slightly more aggressive. We go to $6 bet on dozen number 2. We go to a $10 bet. $10 King on column 3. And we have a $16 bet on dozen number 3. And with the win, we revert. We're going to column 1 now, and we're back to the $2 bet. This is Fibonacci, modified to the King. And we go to a $4 bet on dozen number 1. We're going back and forth. Totally random. This is as random as it's going to get. That puts us on a $2 bet on column 2, $20. Going for $150. We got a buy-in of $1,000. So that puts us on dozen number 3 for $4. Dozen number 3 for $4. I could have skipped one, but even if I did, it's still random. And with that win, we're at $2 on column number 2. Actually, I think we're supposed to be at column number 1, because we're going to go to dozen number 1 after this. So I could have mistaken it, but again, it's still random. So, and that puts us on a $4 bet on dozen number 1. We're at $24. We're going for $150. We're demonstrating Fibonacci, King's modification. And that's a $6 bet on column 2. And that's a $10 bet. Dozen number 2, Fibonacci escalating. And that's a $16 bet on column 2. Again, I could have snafu'd that. But proving the randomness of it. So I'm going to reboot here with a $2 bet on column number 1 and see can I get myself a line. But again, it's all random, so if you do make a little stub toe, it's okay. So that $2 bet loses. So now I know we go to $4 on dozen number 1. The spontaneous work like this, you can get wrapped around the axle. So this is where it happens. We're going to, not rebooting, we're just going to continue on. So we're going to the $2 bet on column number 2. We'll go from here to dozen number 2. So we got a $4 bet there on dozen number 2. Fibonacci. So the $6 bet comes up on column 3. And from here we'll go to dozen 3. And that's a $10 bet on dozen number 3. Now we're returning to home base with a $2 bet on column 1 at $50. Fibonacci, totally random. $4, dozen 1. $6, column 2. $10, dozen 2. $16, column 3. The reset this time happens on dozen number 1 with a $2 bet. We're at $60 session profit, as you can see. And we should go, since we went there, we should go here. Column 2 follows dozen 1, so. That's a $4 bet. So the $6 bet comes up on dozen 2. And the $10 bet comes up there on column 3. $10. And the $16 bet comes up on dozen number 3. And we have a $26 bet on column 1. And a $42 bet on dozen number 1. And a $2 bet on column number 2.
That was a loss. Was it? No, that was a win. Oh, my bad.
All right. First time you made a mistake in a long time. And that was column 2, so we go to the $4 bet here on dozen number 2. And a $2 bet on column 3. And a $6 bet.
Oh, $4 bet now, because you just said.
Is it 4? Okay, sorry.
$2 bet.
Yeah, 4. Is that right? 4?
Yep.
$4 bet on dozen number 3. Takes us to a $2 bet on column 1. $2 bet. King's modified. We skip the second bet and go straight to 4. So we're going to $4 bet on the first dozen. And we go to $2 bet on the second column. And a $2 bet on the second dozen. Going back and forth as random as we can possibly get it. A $4 bet, column 3. And a $2 bet, dozen 3. And a $2 bet, column 1. And a $2 bet, dozen 1. Random and random, looking for intersections, and we're finding them. Except there. And a $4 bet on column 2. And a $6 bet on dozen number 2. And a $2 bet, column 3. A $4 bet, dozen number 3. And a $6 bet, column 1. And a $10 bet, dozen number 1. And a $16 bet, column 2. And a $26 bet on dozen 2. A $42 bet on column 3, up at the top, intersection. Let's start back at the column number 1, $2 bet. We're at $142. And a $4 bet on dozen number 1. And a $6 bet, column 2. We'll go to dozen number 2 for a $10 bet. And a $16 bet up top there. That's on column 3, $16, looking for divisible by 3. Didn't get it. We'll go to a $26 bet. On dozen number 1. And we inverted at that time, but it's still random. And we've got a $42 bet to make on column 1. And a $68 bet to make. I'll just go and do it that way. On dozen number 2. So that busted right through. I was ready to go to D'Alembert there because it would have been even more fun, because you can cease and desist anytime you want with the Fibonacci and switch to D'Alembert, and you're still going to do it because you can bounce around on D'Alembert at the high numbers and recover really, really fast. The highest we ever got was 42 until we got to the 68 there, so that still was kind of an anomaly. We were never in trouble and kind of cruised right through. But the instructive thing about this is that how important the bet is. Win the big bets, lose the little bets. Win a few little bets, then lose, and then win the big bets. And that's what you do. And that's what we wanted to demonstrate. We're going to keep showing it because it's important that everybody knows the bet is the heart and soul of it. Now, you can't just have money and throw bets down. You got to know what you're doing, but the kingdom knows what it's doing. And so with the kingdom, the difference is, are you going to bet properly? And that's where the patience and discipline comes in. Betting properly. For the angel, the king, bids you adieu.